at the wall, no free agent. Don't he want my love at all? Don't he want my love at all? Don't he want my love at all? He doesn't want my love at all.
Pamela, you're an actor, a dancer, a singer, an artistic director, now creator of this new musical, Men. What exactly inspired you to write the musical?
Therapy.
Okay,
That's just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
I'm not going to come up with any fancy
Yeah.
story. Basically, Sarah, you know, I went through a marriage breakup many years ago, and all of a sudden I found myself back on the singleton scene. So that was quite devastating, and obviously things had changed in the time that I had been on the dating scene.
Yeah.
So I struggled with going, you know, being out there back on the cattle market, and I'm all of a sudden competing with girls like half my age as well.
Yeah.
And I didn't get it, you know. Obviously, even when I started dating, weren't even any mobile phones, so that just shows you the last time I was on the scene. Exactly, showing my age. So I decided, because I was struggling, because, you know, you'd be looking at the phone and all of these guys now, friends with benefits and all, I wasn't used to that. And my self-esteem, I think, was really low then. So I decided to go to counselling. And I says, I think there's something wrong with me. I don't get it. I don't understand men's behaviour. You know, guys want to go out for me on a date and then they don't return my calls. So she said, Pamela, write your feelings down on paper. So I started writing down, and then I thought, I could start writing a book. Then I showed it to my friends, and they thought, actually it was my sister that just said, Pamela, that's dreadful. You don't even read chick flick books.
Yeah.
I love autobiographies and reading about people's, you know, life stories.
Yeah.
She says, why are you doing that? Your background is in musical theatre. You know, maybe pen a few songs. So I started doing that, and I let Linda, my sister, listen to these songs, and she said, no, that's you.
Yeah.
That's more you, Pamela. And then obviously then I start thinking of different scenes, funny stories that I shared with my friends on dates. And equally, I mean, the musical isn't just all about me. There's other people as well. But, you know, funny stories that I picked up along the way, and I start putting this into a script. And that's really how the musical evolved.
Okay. And Pamela, have you always loved musical theatre, like you've always had a love for it?
No, do you know what it was? It was my mum and dad. I just most wonderful parents, Mary and Tommy, and they weren't into. Funny enough, I know we're Irish, but they weren't into Celtic music.
Yeah.
It wasn't glamorous enough for my mum. She loved the glitz and glamour of the Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
So my memory would have been sitting in front of the television on a Sunday afternoon, and we'd be looking at like Oklahoma, Calamity Jane, Singing in the Rain, and see these beautiful dance numbers with Doris Day, Gene Kelly, Danny Kaye, all these wonderful people that were involved in musicals. And I think it was the sets and the glamour of it all that Mum and Dad would have introduced me to that. And I think it was a form of escapism for all of us as a family, because back then, before, say, Michael Flatley came along with Riverdance and revamped the whole image, things were quite drab in Ireland. So it was really Mum and Dad. And then I went on, I was a very quiet little girl. I know that's probably hard to believe now, but I was very fortunate that there was a local school down the road from me, and my teacher said to my mum at the time in school, Pamela is very quiet, she's not interacting in school, so you should consider putting her into maybe dance classes. And I was very fortunate that Billy Barry lived down the road from us, and she spotted me. I actually got into my first pantomime. That was just pure chance. I actually had auditioned and I didn't get in. And then my sister Linda got in. But I went one day to collect her, and Mavis Ascot, who's an English choreographer, she said, Pamela, well, she didn't know my name, she just said, can you come in? One of the girls hasn't arrived for the rehearsal. And she got me to come in, and you remember that song? So she says, I want you to do that, and I want you to smile. And she put me partnered with a guy called Stuart O'Connor, okay? So we had to do this, and she said, you're in. And that was my first way of getting into professional pantomime. And from then on, I started working with the likes of Maureen Potter, Brendan Grace, Roisin Lenihan over the years. And we start doing these like mock shows. So this is where the cast would mimic, it wouldn't be shown off to the public, but we would mimic, I suppose, the whole show, the children doing the adult parts. And that's when they realised that I could act, I suppose. And Miss Barry and her two daughters, Joan and Lorraine, took me under their wings and started pushing me more into the acting. And that's really where my love, I suppose, for acting even began, and becoming conscious of musical world. Actually, it was Joan Kenny, Sarah, that introduced me to an Irish director, Brian Merriman, who had a company called Dames. And he pushed me as an actor. I had got roles in shows with him, but he pushed me to do different roles.
Something out of your comfort zone.
He pushed me out of my comfort zone, because he said to me, Pamela, you can always do, I was naturally strong at doing comedy, and he started pushing me into more serious roles. And I thank him now. At the time I was, I wanted the limelight, but he'd give me a role. I remember reading a script before, and I think I had one line, and he said, you will learn more out of that role than getting your usual roles. You don't want to be typecast. So I'm very grateful to Brian on that. And
you said your musical is, there's a lot of you in the musical. Would you say it's specifically geared towards anyone?
Well, there is three characters in it, and obviously the main role is Jennifer, this singleton in her 30s, because again, there's a lot of women out there, they're either single in their 30s, they haven't met anyone, or either women that have been divorced and they find in their 40s and 50s they're back on the scene. So that's what that character is, they're still looking for love, the hope is romantic. The second character, that's an interesting one, which is Annie. And I suppose it's observing my friends and my sister, Linda, in Australia, they have this, they have the husband and the children, and probably the struggle of losing, possibly afraid that they lose their own identity, and struggling a little bit with parenthood. But going back to Linda, with this character, Annie, one thing Linda said to me before on Skype, she was joking with me, and she just said, Pamela, it's all about them, meaning the children. And she showed that she's frustrated, going, God, where am I in the day? It's bringing them here, bringing them there. And she said to her husband, Martin, from now on this year, it's going to be about me. And Martin said, you mean us? And she goes, no, Martin, me. The third character is Rebecca, and she would be more your age group, Sarah. And she's just moved out of home, and she's new on, I suppose, the dating scene. I mean, she's only like 22, and she's basically saying, relax. What's the hurry? But Jennifer, keep in mind, is probably 15 years ahead of her. Yeah. So I want that. I want women in the show to see that you've got this fresh-faced, 22-year-old going out enjoying, being wined and dined by different guys. Really couldn't care less of the guy. It's tough luck on the guy. If they don't want to be involved with them, fine, move on. Exactly. There, you see, your age there. I found myself and other singleton women, when we go out at our age in our late 30s, I found that I start going to clubs and I'd more interest in the decor than men. So I'd be looking at the paintings, and I'd be going to the manager saying, the lighting is lovely and the paintings are beautiful. And my friends are like, where are you going, Pamela? So that's where I was just tired of the cattle market scene.
I'd say it becomes a bit monotonous, sort of going to the same places over and over again. You see the same crowd. It
was just the same talk all the time, and you start, I think that's it, Sarah, you stop... I think where I was, certainly, was that my mindset, I started getting deflated. My self-esteem was quite deflated then, and I couldn't read men. And I'm not here to say that this musical is to say men are shits. That's not what the musical is about. I do want, I think that one of the things that I did learn about men over the years, not that you swear I was with loads, but the few men that I was with was women's self-esteem. And I think that's one thing with the men, their confidence in themselves. I never had a man say, knock out the lights and, because my tummy's going to look too big here. Where women, we're so critical of ourselves. And it's I love Gok Wan. Do you ever see Gok Wan? There's no Botox, it's just saying, this is your body.
You are, yeah.
Yeah. And I think even obviously being a dancer, and because I'm petite, I never felt cool. And obviously I was always told, you're too stumpy, you're too small. You go into the bar, and I never felt cool because I'd be like this, at the bar. And I was like, oh my God. So already I used to joke a lot as well, because to cover up. And I would just say to women, maybe not to be so, we're very hard on ourselves. And I think said the likes of gach bháin or anything, even on the image. I love that he doesn't change, try and get you to have Botox and whatever. It's basically embracing your shape. And that's one thing that's very important with the casting in this show, that we see women of all different age groups. Like one of my friends, Anthony Kirwan, actually, he's gone on to the West End, and he's an amazing dancer. But he did say, when I went over to London last year, because now I'm living in the UK, he just said, Pamela, he went for an audition, but from here down, he was physically fit and he, danced rings around the others. But he did notice from here up that he was older. And he said that he didn't get the audition, even though he was as good as the others. And he felt like he was just pushed aside, part of the scrap heap, which is an awful shame. Even our singer, Alex Sharp, who is an amazing singer, as our audience will get to know. But even Alex struggles to get work for her age group. And I really want this musical is to show different age groups on the stage, different body types, so that we see ourselves up there going, yeah, we may be over 35, we may be up to 50 and 60, but we still have it. We can still dance, so it's to feel, it's to get rid of any age barriers or anything like that.
And is there anyone in your life you have to thank for sort of pushing you and giving you the confidence to kind of go ahead and promote this musical?
It is. I mean, it's funny, Sarah, because back in 2008, I started writing the musical. And actually this year, 2013, was year 5. I'd always said I'd give myself 5 years to go with it. And I have to say, there's more doors been closed in my face. I mean, you ring, you go to like the Andrew Lloyd Webber, Bill Kenwright, all the big boys out there. Of course, you can't get a look in because they want an agent or they want you to have a name, and I can't get past anybody. So that's been deflating. And obviously, I've gone around Europe trying to knock on doors, and they nearly want a name before they'll invest. But I was very fortunate. I said I did go to, 2 years ago, I went to Australia. I emigrated looking for love. And I said, right, I'll go over to my sister and her husband, who very kindly took me under their wings. And it was there that I was, Linda, again, has had a huge impact on this musical. She introduced me to an adventurer called Peter Bland. He was the first Aussie to go to the North and South Magnetic Pole against all odds, And I met him, and I ended up, funny enough, getting mentored by Peter. I invested in his mentoring program. And he asked me my top 3 goals, and he basically said he didn't bat an eyelid when I told him I want to stage a professional musical. My dream, ultimate dream, would, go to the West End, go to Broadway. He didn't go, here now, you're not thinking.
Unlike the rest that shut the doors. So say it was refreshing to get that.
Do you know, you're right. I did mention it in Ireland, and a man just said, Pamela, get your head out of the clouds there. He says, no. Another person said, try it in the local hall. And I just thought that is something with them, I find that I came across. It's not to put down, the Irish have their skills, but I don't know whether it's just something with their mindset that we're being pushed down. I mean, even Dad would have said over the years, don't be losing some of the children be getting bouquets of flowers. Dad would have kept us quite grounded. He didn't want us to lose our dreams, but it's a big dream, I know, but it's like you look at Sir Richard Branson of the Virgin brand. He's a big dreamer, but, he's made these things possible, and he surrounded himself with a wonderful team of people. Another guy I was introduced to, Sarah, was a good friend of Peter's, Greg Barnes. And Greg is a coach for, he comes in, does team building things with companies like Starbucks. I believe when I read a thing about him, he was the worst sailor to actually train the Australian World Championship team, which is crazy. Again, I went out with Greg one day, but it was smashing day at the Melbourne Cup. And I told him, when I went to Australia, Linda said, I'd run a stage school back in Ireland for many years, and I did get to share my love of musicals with my pupils. And I absolutely loved all those years teaching. And but that was a life that I decided, to move on from. And when I went, Linda said, Pamela, you can be anyone you want now. So when I met Greg, I just said, yeah, I've written. And he went, oh, so you're a writer? I'd never thought of
Considered yourself?
No.
Yeah.
But he didn't bat an eyelid. He just went, okay, you've written a musical. And I said, yes. And he went, when will it be staged? And I think from these two accomplished men, Peter Bland, Greg Barnes, I just thought that gave me the boost that I needed. But it's been a hard road, Sarah, along the way. You know, it hasn't just been plain sailing. So I think it's, again, going back to even like Nana and Grandad for you, they've really trained us to have a strong mindset. Don't see when the doors aren't opening. Grandad would have said to you, I'm sure, you know, create that door of opportunity for you. And another thing, Mam would have said to me, Pamela, whatever in life is for you won't pass you by. So if the viewers look at this and they look at the footage and, you know, they don't like it or whatever the case, then I'll accept that. But at least I've tried. And I always told my pupils back in the stage school, try, don't lie. Don't go to an audition, don't go to an interview and lie. Put your cards on the table. And if you can't do something, say, well, I can't do it, but you know what, I'm a quick learner, I can try. I'm not saying that this musical is groundbreaking material, as one person did say. I mean, Tim mentioned that Australian guy. He is amazing, he's done Matilda. But we're different. I know my audience. It's very much geared towards females. And I just think there's a great story there. I can see fantastic dance routines. Actually, it was Brian, my brother, that said to me, because I'd produced my own shows over the stage school, and I was thinking, you know, budgets all the time. And he just said, Pamela, don't limit your imagination. And I think, again, Brian has a huge impact. All my family, like even Tony, my other brother, he's been more on the business side. But Brian, even on the creative, he'd say, don't limit your imagination. Let it flow and see how it goes. And so that's where we're at the moment. And so I've just taken the bull by its horn. We did lose an investor, sadly, back in September. And I just thought, right, I've got to go for this myself, have a shot at it and see what way it goes.
So you've put your dream of staging this musical, you know, out there. And do you have any fears at the moment?
Well, yes, I do. I mean, the two fears is, funny enough, a few months ago when I arrived in London, I'd been going to the job centre. I'd always been self-employed, but I had to go to the job centre. And, you know, they knew my background was in the arts. And the last time I was in there, it was quite deflating because they just said to me, you know, said I am petite. And the lady said, Pamela, I'd been knocking on doors trying to get work, even an internship. I couldn't even get an internship at the time. And she just said to me, would you consider door security?
You?
And I'm like, you know, 4 for 11. And she says, this is equality. I'm like, do I really look a threat, you know? And the funny thing then was, she said, Miss Keeley, you're going to have to lower your voice, otherwise we'll have to get security to escort you off the premises. So that was the last I went to the job centre. I think my fear would be, I read an article when I was on the tube and it said 85% of people in the UK hate going to their jobs. Imagine that, isn't that really sad? They hate going to their job. So they're not being productive, they're just, you know, existing. And all I'd want out of this footage, that maybe somebody out there in the musical theatre world or anything in the arts would see a lady in front of them that simply wants to work in the arts. I feel nothing against door security. I'm sure it's a wonderful job, but I just feel after all the experience I have that nobody thinks that I've anything to offer. And that would be I would think that would be quite sad. So that would be my fear, is that I would end up in a job that I would hate.
Okay. And why exactly did you try, you know, are you tempted to promote it online, to promote the musical, not going down the traditional route of, you know, obviously you've knocked on the doors and everything, but why have you decided to specifically promote it on the internet?
Yeah, I suppose, obviously because I've produced shows over the years and I've worked with budgets, and because I want a big cast and whatever, and I went into the Leicester Square Theatre trying to get figures originally for the investor. And Martin, who's the owner, very kindly gave me his time and he just said, Pamela, you're going to lose. The investor will lose their money, you won't be getting enough in, you'd need to take your cast down or whatever. And obviously then the other route would be the fringe festivals. And I was thinking about it and I thought, you know, you look at these, you know, authors that, again, the doors aren't open, they're not getting an agent. And the lovely thing with the era that we're living in now, with the internet and everything, with Facebook and all this, is that, say, authors can now self-publish, which is fantastic. You can have, I don't want to come across as like some control freak. I want to come across as being assertive.
But you do, it's your musical and you want it to, you know, be sold a certain way. You don't want it to be manipulated by this.
Yeah, you're right. And I thought about it, and obviously I was doing some work with Peter Bland. He said he is a mentor and he brings people away to Antarctica, and said anyone that wants to be mentor with Peter. So they Skype and he does these online mentoring. And so I learned that from it. I thought he can, and he's free as a bird, Peter. He's not
stuck in an office.
And that's just not for me. So that made me think, actually, I could try and use the era that we're living in now with the internet.
And the experience that you have.
And the experience I have. I mean, you look at even like Susan Boyle from The X Factor. I mean, Susan, there was no way anyone would have looked at Susan Boyle. I mean, we're all the first to say it. I mean, we're all so quick. How dare us to say, oh, look at your woman. How dare, I'm ashamed to say that. But within like seconds, all of a sudden she was a hit, like a world, not just in the UK, worldwide. And that was the beauty of it. And all of a sudden, obviously, Susan's life has completely transformed. She wanted to sing. I'm sure she would have sang in the local hub, but you know what I mean, her life, and that was the beauty of it. And I just feel, you know, this is the 5th year now. Now, if it's to happen, it's going to happen. I have this small budget here and I'm going to have a shot at it, put it out, and said it's more even your generation, I'm hoping, pick up on it. And what I need, I can only do so much myself and the creative team. I'm saying, you know, we've got an idea. I want to create employment for us. I think, you know, you could have a great night out. I think there's some moving songs in it, some great comical songs in it. But you as the viewer, you have to lift your weight with us, because without an audience, we don't have anything. And the audience is essential to this. So we need the viewers to spread the word, whether it's on Facebook, blogging and all this thing. And I also need them to go out and buy that song. Or December is our first song that's going to be launched. So it's
exciting.
It is exciting. Yeah. It's like 99 cent or whatever. But like, what's 99 cent? But the impact, can you imagine all those 99 cents that can actually start bringing us to the next stage, create employment. And it's not just for myself, it's for the cast, it's for film crew. It's the ripple-on effect, and that's what I'm hoping. But I urge the audience that to go out and please spread the word and also buy the song.
Well, I admire your confidence and your drive, and I wish you the very best of luck with this musical.
Thanks a million, Sarah.